Oh no. Ich weiß nicht mehr, wo ich aufgehört habe. Ah, doch. He crossed the room and cautiously opened the door of the chamber in which Tom lay snoring. Beckoning the old man to be wary, he allowed him to peer in. Crockett looked and listened, stole forward, and, like some pale-faced ghoul, leaned over the flushed features of the unconscious lad. Then he stealthily returned to the parlour, and the door between the two rooms was shut. Warum denke ich immer, dass Französisch die Sprache des Krieges ist? Wie komme ich darauf? Well, the Irishman asks, "Are you satisfied? What do you say his name is?" "Maitland, Sir Thomas Maitland of Guckfield." "She'll be Lady Maitland." "To be sure. And what do you call her now?" the clockmaker asked. He seemed to find a difficulty in pronouncing the last words. "Clark, Mistress Oriana Clark." Hawksworth answered, "She's at Ipswich, or was, and should be here tomorrow." Crockett's nose curled at the name. "And what are you going to get out of this?" he continued, eyeing the other with intense suspicion. The Irishman hesitated, but in the end determined to tell the truth and trust to the other's self-interest. "A wife and a plum," he said. "There's a girl, his sister. I'm going to marry. She takes 10,000 out of his share if he marries without his guardian's consent. That's it." Ups. Also das ist unser Hawksworth, das ist Tom und das ist der Captain Saverho, wenn ich das richtig verstehe alles. "Lord, you're a rascal. To take 10,000 of my son-in-law's money and tell me of it to my face, by goal, you're a cool one." Irgendwie hängen die alle zusammen. Ich kapiere es nicht ganz. "You can choose between that and nothing," Hawksworth answered. "You can do nothing without me, you see, no more can Oriana." The old man winced. Somehow the name, her name, had been Sarah, hurt him. "What's the name of the other one?" he said. "His sister that you're going to marry." "Josephine," the Irishman answered. The scene in the gardens had moved Josephine's feelings so deeply that, notwithstanding the glamour Hawksworth's exploit had cast over her, a word of kindness addressed to her on her arrival. Wahrscheinlich redet dieser Hawksworth die ganze Zeit so. Josephine. Dabei meint er die der andere auch meint oder sowas. Ich weiß nicht genau. A word of kindness addressed to her on her arrival in Arlington Street might have had far-reaching results. Unfortunately, her sister's temper and Mr. Northey's dullness gave sweet reasonableness small place. Scarcely had the chairman been dismissed, the chairs carried out, and the door closed on them before Mr. Northey's indignation found vent. "Josephine, I'm astonished," he said in portionless tones, and dull as he was astonished. He was astonished. "I could not have believed you would behave in this way." "The more fool you," Mr. Northey snapped, while the girl, white and red by turns, too proud to fly, yet dreading what was to come, hung irresolute at the foot of the stairs, apparently fumbling with her hood and really growing harder and harder with each reproach that was leveled at her. After all I said to you this morning, Mr. Northey continued, glaring at her as if he found disobedience to orders such as his a thing beyond belief, when I had prohibited in the most particular manner all communications with that person to go and meet him in a place of all places, the most scandalous in which to be alone with a man. La, Northey, it was that made her do it, his wife rejoined. Go to bed, miss, and we will talk to you tomorrow. I suppose you thought we were taken in with your fine tale of your brother? I never said it was my brother, she cried. Go to bed, do you hear? I suppose you have sense enough. Okay, also haben die jetzt gedacht, dass Hawkworth ihr Bruder sein soll und sie das als Ausrede sagt und gar nicht wissen, dass der Bruder wirklich da ist. Naja, ich weiß nicht. Ich glaube, das ist Absicht, dass man das nicht kapiert. Josephine joked, but thought better of it and turning away crept upstairs. After all, she whispered, as her hands squeezed convulsively the poor hood that had not offended her. It mattered little. If he were good to her, what recked it of others their words of their opinion? What had they ever done for her that she should be guided by them, or what that she should resign the happiness of her life at their bidding? They had no real care for her. Here was no question of father or mother, or the respect due to their wishes, of kindness, love, or gratitude, of a brother-in-law who bullied her in his dull, frigid fashion. She knew little more than she knew of a man in the street. And her sister spared her at the best a cold, selfish affection, the affection of the workman for the tools by which he hopes he may some day profit. Naturally, her thoughts reverted to the lover who that evening had shown himself in his true colors, a hero worthy of any poor girl's affection. Josephine's eyes filled with tears, and her bosom rose and fell with soft emotion as she thought of him and pictured him. As she flushed, knew beneath his ardent glances, as she recalled the past and painted a future in which she would lie safe in the haven of his love, secured from peril by the strength of his arm. What puny figures the beaux and bloods of town looked beside him! With what grace he moved among them, elbowing one and supplanting another. It was no wonder they gazed after him enviously, or behind his back vented their pretty spite in sneers and innuendos, called him Teague, and muttered of Murphy's and the bog of Iran. What the fuck? Okay. Ah, what? Ich will es kopieren. Bro, da kann man nicht kopieren. Okay, machen wir es anders. ChatGPT? Was sagt ChatGPT, was das bedeutet? So. ChatGPT sagt, es war kein Wunder, dass sie ihm neidisch hinterherblickten oder hinter seinem Rücken ihren kleinlichen Groll in Spott und Anspielungen ausließen, ihn Teague nannten und von Murphys und dem Sumpf von Aran murmelten. Teague, ein veralteter, abfälliger Spitzname für einen Iren. Murphys, eine abwertende Bezeichnung, die sowohl auf den häufigen irischen Nachnamen Murphy als auch die Kartoffel anspielt. Sie nannten ihn Kartoffel. The time would come, and oh, how she prayed it might come quickly, when the world would discover the part he had played, when, in a Stuart England, he would stand forward, the friend of Cecile, the agent of Ormond, and the town would recognize in the obscurity in which he now draped himself, and at which they scoffed, the cloak of the most daring and loyal conspirator that ever wrought for the rightful king. For this was the secret he had whispered in Josephine's ear. This was the explanation he had given of the cold looks men cast on him in public. Nor was it too incredible for the belief of a romantic girl. In that year, 1742, the air in London was full of such rumors, and London, rumor said, was full of such men. The close of Sir Robert Walpole's long and peaceful administration and the imminence of war with France had raised the hopes of the Jacobites to the highest pitch. Though the storm did not break in open war until 3 years later, it already darkened the sky and filled the capital with its rumblings. Alike in the cabinet, where changes were frequent and great men few, and in the country where people looked for something they hardly knew what, unrest and uneasiness prevailed. Many a sturdy squire in Lancashire and Shropshire, many a member of Westminster from Shippen and Sir Watkin downwards, passed his glass over the water jug as he drank the king. And if Josephine, as she drew her withered flower from its hiding place, that it might lie beneath her pillow through the night, prayed for King James and his cause, she did only what many a pretty Jacobite and some who passed for weeks were doing at the same hour. Ach ja, was haben sie denn gemacht? Von ihm träumen oder was? In the meantime, and pending the triumph for what she longed so passionately, her dear hero's pretensions helped her not a whit. On the contrary, were they known or suspected, they would sink him lower than ever in the estimation of her family. This thought it was that, as she lay revolving matters, raised in her mind an increasing barrier between her and her sister. The Northeast were firm Whigs. Whig. Pferd. Pledged not less by interest than by tradition, of the White Horse of Hanover. They had deserted Sir Robert at his utmost need, but merely to serve their own turn, because his faction was drooping, and another equally Whiggish was in the ascendant. Certainly with no view to a Stuart restoration. Her Irishman's success therefore meant their defeat and downfall. His triumph must cost them dear. To abide by them and abide by him were as inconsistent as to serve God and Mammon. Josephine, drawn to her lover by the strength of maiden fancy, saw this. She felt the interval between her and her family increase the longer she dwelt on the cause to which her mind was being slowly moved. The consciousness that no compromise was possible had its effect upon her. When she was summoned to the parlor next day, a change had come over her. She went not shyly and shamefacedly open to cajolery. Kann man bei Temu und Koran kaufen. Liebdienerei, Überredung, and kindness, as she had gone the previous day, when her opinion of her lover's merit had fallen short of the rapt assurance that this morning uplifted her. Au contraire, she went armed with determination as solemn in her own sight as it was provoking in the eyes of older beholders and more sagacious persons. Mrs. Northey discerned the change the moment Josephine entered the room, and she was proportionately exasperated. "Oh, miss, so you'll follow Miss Hove, will you?" she sneered. "You'll take no advice." "I hope I shall know how to conduct myself better, ma'am," Josephine said, proudly. Mr. Northey was less clear-sighted than his wife. He saw no change. He thought in all innocence that the matter was where he had left it. After clearing his throat, therefore, "Josephine," he said, with much majesty, "I hope you have recovered your senses, and that conduct such as that of which you were guilty last night will not be repeated while you are in our charge. Understand me. It must not be repeated. You are country bred, and do not understand that what you did is a very serious matter, and quite enough to compromise a young girl." Josephine, disdaining to answer, spent her gaze on the picture above his head. The withered flower was in her bosom. The heart that beat against it was full of wondering pity for her sister, who had been compelled to marry this man. This man, ugly, cold, stiff, with no romance in his life, no secret. This man at the touch of whose hand she, Josephine, shuddered. "I consider it so serious a transgression," Mr. Nosey resumed pompously. Little did he dream what she was thinking of him, that the only condition on which I can consent to overlook it is that you at once, Josephine, do your duty by accepting the husband on whom we have fixed for you. Every man has a secret. How he carries himself with it is the matter. "No," she said, "I cannot do that." "Eh? I cannot do that, sir. My mind is quite made up. I'm in love." Nee, das habe ich gesagt. "My mind is quite made up," she repeated. From her chair, Mrs. Northey laughed scornfully at her husband's consternation. "Are you blind?" she said. Cannot you see that the Irishman has turned the girl's head?" "Impossible," he said. "Don't you hear her say that her mind is made up?" she continued. "You may talk till you are hoarse, Northey. You'll get nothing. I know that. She's a pig when she likes." Mr. Northey glowered at the girl as if she had already broken all bounds. But does she understand? That marriage with a person of that class is impossible. And surely no modest girl would continue to encourage a person whom she cannot marry? Still, Josephine remained silent, her eyes steadily fixed on the picture above his head. Speak, he cried. This is impertinence. If I cannot marry him, I shall marry no one. If you cannot marry that Irish footman, he said, bursting into rage, a penniless adventurer from Ireland, who has not even asked you. He has asked me. Oh, by God, ma'am, I've done with you, he cried, striking his fist on the table, and he added an expletive or two. I hand you over to Madam there. Perhaps she can bring you to your senses. I might have known it. Like and like, madam, it's bred in the bone, I see. I don't know what you mean, Northey, his wife said, with a sneer of easy contempt. If you had left the matter to me from the beginning, it would have been done by now. Listen to me, Miss Obstinate. Is that the last word you'll give us? Yes, she said. Then you'll go into the country tomorrow, that's all. We'll see how you like that. The blow was unexpected. The girl's lips parted and she looked wildly at her sister. Into the country? Hey, sure. To Cuckfield? Question mark? She asked desperately. After all, where she sent to her old home, all was not lost. He had heard her speak of it. He knew where it was. He could easily trace her thither. Okay. Hierhin. No, miss, not to Cockfield. You'll go to Aunt Leah, Josephine, at Chalk Hill, and I wish you joy of her tantrums and her scraping. You'll go early. Tomorrow, Mr. Northey will take you. I already made up my mind. And what I will answer there shall be no note palming. When you are in a better mind and your teaks in Bridewell, you may come back. I fancy you'll be tamed by that time. It will need mighty little persuasion, I'm thinking, to bring you to marry Sir Hervey when you've been at Aunt Leah's for 3 months. Josephine's lip began to tremble. Her eyes roved piteously. Well, might the prospect terrify her, for it meant not only exile from her lover, but an exile which she saw might be permanent. For how was he to find her? To Cockfield, the family seat, he might trace her easily, but in the poor hamlet on the Sussex coast, where her aunt, who had tripped in her time and paid the penalty, dragged on a penurious existence as the widow of a hedge parson, not so easily. There a poor girl might eat out her heart, even as her aunt had eaten out hers, and no redress and no chance of rescue. Even had she the opportunity of writing to her lover, she did not know where he lived. Mrs. Northey read her dismay, saw the color fade in her cheek and the tears gather in her eyes, and the remorselessness determination with cool enjoyment drove the nail home. There'll be no Vauxhall there, she sneered, and mighty few drums or routs, my dear. It's likely your first masquerade will be your last. And for the wine merchant actor that you were to see at Godman's Field tomorrow, You may whistle for him. And for your dear Amorevoli, it's to be hoped, Miss Lucy, you'll find your Thomas worth it. When you get him. And then changing her ground with no little skill. See here, child. Are you going on with this silliness? Think, my dear, think, while it is time, for 'twill be too late at Chalkhill. You don't want to go and be buried in that hole till your brother comes of age? Was ist das mit diesem Bruder? Das verstehe ich nicht. Hä? Ach so, das ist so ein Wettrennen. Das hat der Vater geschrieben. Sie muss vor ihm heiraten. Sonst gibt's Mische. Josephine, resentful but terrified, subdued both by the prospect and by the appeal to her reasonableness, had hard work to refrain from tears as she uttered her negative. No, I don't want to go. I thought not. Then you shall have one more chance. If you'll give me your word not to write to him, you shall have a week to think of it before you go. But you keep your room. On that I must insist. There you'll have time to think, and I hope by the end of the week you'll have come to your senses, my dear. If not, you'll go to Aunt Leah. The mixture of severity and kindness was clever, and it had its effect upon poor Josephine, who stood weighing the alternatives with a rueful face, while she remained in town if she might not see him. She was still near him, and he near her. She would not be lost to him, nor he to her, and then what might not happen in a week, I will promise, she murmured. Good, Miss Nosy answered. Then you may go to your room. And to her room she went. She would have gone, in a mood fairly open to the influence of reason and solitude, but in an evil moment for himself. Mr. Nosy, smarting under defeat which his wife's victory, rendered the more humiliating, thought he espied an opportunity of restoring his dignity. Wo keine dignity ist, kann auch keine restored werden. Yes, you may go, he said sourly, but take this with you. You will see there, he continued, fussily, selecting a letter from a pile on the table and handing it to her. What are the terms in which a gentleman seeks an alliance with a lady? 'Tis from Sir Hervey, and I shall be... Northy und Hervey, darf man nicht verwechseln? Hervey ist der, den sie heiraten soll. And I shall be much surprised if it does not produce a very different impression on you from that which that person has made. I do not want it, she answered, and held out the letter between her finger and thumb, as if it had an evil odour. But I insist on your taking it. And in spite of the warnings which his wife's contemptuous shrugs should have conveyed to him, he repeated the command. Then I will read it now, the girl answered, if you order me to do so. I do order you, he said, and still holding the folded sheet a little from her, she opened it, and with a curling lip and half-averted eye began to read the contents. Suddenly Mr. Nosy took fright. Mrs. Nosy took fright. Mr. Nosy even was surprised by the change, for the girl's face grew red and redder. She stared at the letter, her lips parting widely, as in astonishment. At last, What is this? She cried. Tom? Then it was Tom I saw last night. Tom, Mr. Nosy exclaimed. Yes, it was Tom. And oh, but this is dreadful. This must be stopped at once. She continued looking from the paper on to them and back again with distended eyes. He is mad to think of such a thing at his age. He's only a boy. He does not know what he's doing. Her voice shook with agitation. What the deuce do you mean, miss? Her brother-in-law thundered. Have you taken leave of your senses? What do you mean by this nonsense? Dieser Stuhl. Mean? His wife answered. She means that instead of giving her Coke's letter, you have given her the Cambridge letter, the letter from Tom's tutor. You have done it, like the fool you always are. Ach so, der falsche Brief. Mr. Northey swore violently. Give it me. Do you hear, girl? Give it me. And he stretched out his hand to recover the letter. Boah, ich kann nicht aufhören. But something in the excess of his chagrin, or in the words of the reproach Mrs. Northey had flung at him, roused suspicion in the girl's mind. She recoiled, holding the paper from him. It is 5 days old. You have had it 4 days, 3 at least, and you have said nothing about it. You have not told me, and you have done nothing, she continued, her mind jumping instinctively to the truth at which Mr. Northey's guilty face hinted not obscurely. He's on the brink of ruining himself with this woman, and you stand by though you are told what she is and where were told 3 days ago. Why? Josephine cried, as Mr. Northey, with an oath, snatched the letter from her. What does it mean? Mean? Why, that one unruly child is enough to manage at a time. Was steht denn da drin? Mr. Northey answered, rising to the occasion. She spoke with venom, and no wonder. Her hands tingled for her husband's ears. She had improved matters with a vengeance. It's fine talking, you little toad, she continued. But if you don't listen to sense who are here, how are we to persuade him and he not here? Tell me that, miss. A nice pattern of discretion and prudence you are to talk. Hang your impudence. Boah, shit. But you have done nothing, Josephine wailed. And I saw him last night. It was he whom I saw at Vauxhall. I could have spoken to him, and I'm sure he would have listened to me. Listened to his grandmother. We have done what we think right, and that is enough for you, you baby. A nasty, disobedient little toad running into the very same folly yourself, and then prating of us and what we should do. Hang your fine talking. I've no patience with you, and so I tell you, miss. But I don't understand, Josephine said. Who cares whether you understand? Why you make so much of marrying me the way you wish and yet let him go his way? If he does this, you'll get some of his money, I know. But it cannot be that. It couldn't be that. And yet, she cried with a sudden flush of generous indignation as conviction was borne in upon her by Mr. Northey's hang-dog face. Yes, it is that. Oh, for shame, for shame. Are you his sister and will ruin him? Will ruin him for the sake of money? Silence, you minx. Keckes Mädchen, Göre. Mrs. Northey cried. How dare you say such things to hear? Be silent.